Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today I am back with awesome news, and that is to say that Radiant Pokémon are coming up in these new Pokemon TCG Series 3 prize packs. I didn't know this was going to happen, but it is happening. And I am absolutely delighted about this, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely delighted. And we might as well start off with this image. It was found by Pokemon Deals Community over on Twitter. It's Radiant Charizard. Yeah. Turns out actual proper job full-on Radiant Charizard is available as a stamped promo in these prize packs. And I think this is awesome. Now, obviously, there is a little bit of an issue here. And the issue we have is that not everyone's going to have access to this. And unfortunately, I think it is fair to say, because I've seen it many, many times, there are a bunch of stores out there that are less scrupulous, I think it's fair to say, when it comes to the distribution of these prize packs. We all know that they should be given out to players who are turning up and playing at the local league. They are not, for some stores. A bunch of stores, hopefully the majority of stores, they absolutely are. But there are some stores out there where this is unfortunately not the case, and it's actually genuinely really sad to me, because that's who these are designed for. The whole point of the prize packs is that they are a reward for the players who are going down and playing at the local store and supporting the local store. So every time I see these being, there's a bunch of people I see selling these online, and sometimes it's somebody whose store got a whole bunch in and they've, accumulated a bunch and they are selling them to buy more cards, and in that case, great. But sometimes you see people selling a whole bunch of these and you click on their Facebook profile and they're very, very obviously a league leader at a store, and they're just selling the ones that should be given to their people at their league. And that's rubbish, and that makes me genuinely sad, because that is not the point of these. That is not what they're designed for. So yeah, I've acknowledged that at the beginning. I wish that never happened. I wish nobody was that unscrupulous. Unfortunately, some people are, and it's rubbish, and yeah, I'm sorry. But leaving that aside for the minute, because there's not really much more we can say about that, the fact that these exist, and the fact that these are coming, and the fact that we're getting these Radiant Pokemon is awesome. Because I know that these are going to be quite expensive, right? And we'll look at some prices in a minute. But the fact of the matter is, you can just ignore these. If you look at the price of these and you're like, what's it, that's ridiculous, I'm not doing it, don't. Basically, don't do it. Because you don't have to. You don't have to go after these cards and pick up these cards. You don't have to join in. These are cool, fancy versions of existing awesome cards. And if you want them, that's great. And if you don't want them, that's great as well, ladies and gentlemen. That's great as well. If we have a look at the Radiant Charizard, there are two currently for sale on eBay. One has been bid up to $132.50 and one has been bid up to $105. And these are going to basically determine what happens here in terms of the price of these cards. How these two sell is going to show us what's happening in the future. Now, there is actually one that is currently sold on eBay as it stands, and it was sold for $150. However, it's not necessarily the best look. And the reason very simply is, it wasn't bid, it was a buy it now, and it was the first one. So you're talking about one that is sold with very little information here, where people are just like, I wonder if this will sell for 150 quid. And it did. Could it have sold for more? Could people have paid 200, 250, etc., etc.? Maybe. But we don't know is the honest answer here, ladies and gentlemen. And I do think that is very, very important to note. Now, in terms of other Charizards selling, they're really all over the place here. For instance, we can look, the last three sales of, three different Charizard. We got the V Max, which sold for about $500. The V Star that sold for $210. And the V that sold for $40. The V Max is the one where people have basically decided, now whether that was because of the lack of availability, because the V Max was in Prize Pack 1, and then the V Star was in Prize Pack 2, And I think Prize Pack 2 was out there a bit more. So maybe it was a lack of availability, maybe people like the VMAX more. I'm not 100% sure, but I can tell you this for absolute certain. The VMAX is more sought after than the V-Star, and they are both obviously more sought after than the V. So we've seen these Charizard in the past. It looks like the Radiant Charizard is going to end up somewhere in the region of the V-Star. I still think that $150 sale was a little bit too low. We'll have to wait and see exactly how this comes out, but it seems at the moment like this is going to be somewhere in the region of the V-Star. And this is fine, because as I keep telling you, lovely ladies and gentlemen, these are just the same cards you've already had, but they've got a new stamp. And if you're the person that wants to go and get the fancy version of it, this is cool. Because remember, like, if we take Charizard V Max as an example, we've got the regular version of the Charizard V Max, but we've also got the Rainbow Rare version of the Charizard V Max, and we've got the shiny version of the Charizard V Max, and then we've got the aforementioned stamped version. But we don't really need the stamped version, because we've already got fancy versions of the Charizard V Max. It exists as a card with a whole bunch of fancy cool versions of it. We don't need it. That's not to say we don't want it, but if you want to bling out your deck, you've got other options. Oh, and let's not forget the promo version of it as well, the lovely alternate art promo that came in the Ultra Premium collection. So, yeah. Basically, there are a bunch of different versions of this. If you want a fancy version of it, you can go and get yourself a fancy version of it pretty gosh darned easily. But when it comes to the Radiant Pokemon, there aren't. We get one version of the Radiant Pokemon. We get the Radiant Pokemon. We don't get alternate arts or different foilings or any of that. They just don't exist. So that means that when we get stuff like this that are stamped, that is going to make a lot of people a lot more interested in it, because this is basically the only way to get the fancy version of it. And that is going to make a big, big difference to a bunch of people here in terms of actually getting hold of these cards, because they're going to go, well, hang on a second, we don't have other versions, let's go and get this. It's why these Radiant Pokemon could end up being a bit more sought after. Now, I don't know the exact full list of these yet, but this from Shiba Inu ATX over on Twitter shows 4 Radiant Charjabug. So yeah, Radiant Charjabug is very much definitely out there. Pish Poshness over on Twitter went and showed us this Radiant Serena, which is pretty nice. But honestly, we can head on over to eBay here and we can see that actually a bunch of them have sold. So, I mean, if we start off with this first image, there's a Radiant Serena that sold for $30. Bearing in mind, Radiant Serena does see a bit of play for that lovely healing ability. And then we got a couple Radiant Steelix, one that sold for $16, but that was a buy it now. And one that got one bid for $5. As a side note, whoever got a Radiant stamped prize pack Pokemon for $5, that's ridiculous. I would pay that in a heartbeat. We can then have a look at Radiant Jirachi, which sold for $50. But then there's also a Steelix that sold for $30 and an Eternatus that sold for, well, $25 best offer accepted. How come there was a Steelix that sold for $30 and a Steelix that sold for $5? Because this is all new to us. Because these cards have just come out and we don't know exactly what the value is yet. So somebody put it up as a buy it now for $30 and it sold. Somebody else put it up as an auction and only got one bid and it sold for $5. We haven't kind of worked out exactly how much these are going to go for. Why is your Radiant Jirachi going for $50? People like Jirachi? Like, don't get me wrong, I love Radiant Jirachi, right? It's absolutely stunning. It's a beautiful card. And it's got the lovely, flip 2 coins, if heads, instant KO, really nice ability. It's a lovely card. But, why? And the answer is I don't really know. Because it really shouldn't be that expensive. And, let's put it up side by side here with Radiant Greninja. $6. What? Now, maybe this is because it sold in the UK, so there were fewer people looking, and the American folks either couldn't or didn't want to buy from the UK. Some listings, it won't let you, well, some sellers don't want to sell abroad. That makes perfect sense. But this is an interesting one to me, because Radiant Greninja is the best Radiant Pokemon. It sees the most play. And yet it's a $6 card? Why is it a $6? It's not a $6 card is the answer. Whoever got this for $6 got an absolute bargain. I refuse to believe that this is a $6 card as a stamped card. But then again, there is an excellent chance here that people weren't really aware of the prize pack. So they didn't really understand the significance, and maybe that's why it sold for less than it probably should have done. But I think people are starting to learn this now, and hopefully if you didn't know it before, you've learned it from this video. I do think the price of some of these, the Charizard, people aren't going to miss the Charizard. People are always going to be looking to make a bit of money on a new Charizard. Things like Radiant Greninja seem, at least for the moment, to have slipped under the radar. I would not expect this to carry on, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure this is going to be sold for $6 again. But either way, the fact that these Radiant Pokemon are popping up in these packs is awesome. I'm a big fan, but I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would you? And obviously which one you want to pick up and how much you'd be willing to pay. So go nuts in the comment section, but be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.